Robert, let's do the Trump, people. Talking about getting despaired. I don't know how bad it has to get, and I don't know how bad it's going to get. Explain to the world what is going on with the bond issue. Trump secured the bond in the Engoron case. New York nipple judge Engoron, Letitia James. Not going to go over all of the corruption there, except to say they're both corrupt. Letitia James campaigned off prosecuting Trump. We all know that. New York nipple judge showing his titties to his, what is it called, alumni group, sending out, his articles about how badly he's nailing Eric Trump. They issue the order, 355 million, 450 with interest. The Court of Appeal reduces the bond to 175 million. Trump is able to secure the bond using a bonding agency. I don't know how these things work, never done it. I'm trying to piece it together. Now, Letitia James is arguing that the surety or the security, the bonding company, is not adequate for reasons which I don't fully understand. And what are they asking for now?
They're demanding an investigation into the bond company and now harassment of the bond company. So, I mean, this is what happens when you give a legal system this much power, when you give lawyers this much power, when you give the professional managerial class this much power. They will abuse it. It's just inevitable. It is the inescapable lesson of life that, the best argument for the Michael Malice style anarchist of the world is the experience of government. The experience of government is the best counterpoint to any argument against the libertarians and the anarchists, is seeing what happens when you give a small group of people power. They abuse it without fail. There's no contrary historical alternative over time. There might be for a short period of time, but not over an extended time period. And that's what the Letitia James, who, as you noted, campaigned and won office promising to weaponize the legal system of New York against Trump, did so fraudulently with the help of a partisan hack judge who legally, procedurally wasn't supposed to preside over the case because it should have gone to a different branch of the New York courts, who ignored any appellate ruling that overturned any aspect of his case, that made sure Trump never got a trial by jury, even in very anti-Trump New York, because he knew that he couldn't rely on a jury to rule his way, even if it was all Democrats on the jury, because of what a crock his case was. Then in order to try to interfere in the election, James was trying to steal Trump's assets while he appealed, knowing that if the court has a conscience or political IQ over 50, this verdict will be completely reversed, or New York is going to become the place you never want to go do business with. New York is going to be known as that banana republic that no businessman wants to get near with their assets or investment, as Kevin O'Leary and others have been very publicly stating. So, and then the Court of Appeals split the baby, reduced the amount of the bond to an amount that Trump's counsel had said they already could post. He posted, and now they don't like the bond. They thought they had intimidated all the bond companies into not providing a bond for Trump. Then they go and lie about it at the Attorney General's office to the New York Court of Appeals. They get threatened with sanctions, but not actually sanctioned for filing things impermissibly at the New York Court of Appeals and making false statements up there. And now we know, in fact, all along, that was their goal, because as soon as the bond company posts bond, they're threatening the bond company and demanding the same political hack judge somehow revoke that bond. And so, I mean, these are people who don't get the message. That's why people like Engoron, you got to lock them up and put them behind bars. You got to criminally prosecute them. You got to impeach them if you're at the congressional level. Impeachment's not a viable option in New York because the whole state is gone. The state's politics are just insane. And the court system is complicit in that corruption. And they've made it very clear how complicit they are in that corruption. Now, it's come to the shock of a lot of people who've made the mistake of investing their lives and their fortunes in New York. People like Kevin O'Leary, who does have major investments in New York, now wishes he didn't, because they weren't paying attention. The system was good at its corruption because it limited the number of people it targeted. Forever, we were taught as lawyers, you go through law school, judges are governed by impartiality, not prejudice. They're governed by reason, that they're these Platonic philosopher kings in the Socratic tradition that they're taught in, who simply study what the law is and divine the law from these holy documents, and they apply them to the facts with their incredible means of discernment, of judgment, and that's what we get. That was always a fraud. Judges are human beings. Human beings are motivated reason thinkers. In other words, motivation is the master of reason. Reason has never been the master of motivation. That's a lie we tell ourselves to help perpetuate our own survival psychologically. It's the elephant in the brain, as the book so reads, that discusses the science behind this. So that's never been true. I argued with it when I was first year in law school. And the professor was like, well, we want to be governed by law, not by men, Mr. Barnes. I'm like, who do you think writes the laws? Who do you think interprets the laws? Who do you think applies the laws? Who do you think enforces the laws? The invisible man of the law? No, it's men. And we have to deal with the reality of that. But this corruption, most people didn't know, because 90% of Americans never interact with the legal system in great detail. Their interaction is limited to maybe traffic court, which is not usually a boost of confidence when they're in there, but they assume it's just traffic court. They don't realize traffic court is actually one of our better legal systems compared to most of our civil and criminal justice systems. But because 90% of Americans haven't seen it, and everybody's getting a crash course. 10 years ago, when I would use the phrase deep state, people would look at me like I'd just come out of the nut house. Now they're like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. The same is true now of the legal system. And they're educating the world by trying to weaponize it against Trump.
Richard Painter does not believe there's a deep state, but he did, of course.
He is the deep state. He is a personification of the deep state.
But I mean, what is this? Investigate the bond company's liquidity. It's an out-of-state bond company. I don't understand what would have to happen in order for there to be a crisis as relates to the bond. What has to happen? What has to happen for that $175 million bond to be immediately executable and liquid?
Well, ultimately, it's already been posted. So the idea that it's not secure is nuts. And so, but it's really simple. It's harassment. If you side with Trump, we're going to harass you. That's the message. We got a corrupt, compliant, complicit court system that will eagerly enable you to harass. And we got the prosecutors in our pocket. We got the lead, powerful political decision makers in the Pentagon and in the police in our pocket. And I'm not talking about the ordinary soldier or the ordinary cop. This is what action films could have. If you followed action films for the last 40 years in America, you could understand what's happening in the Pentagon. You could understand what's happening in the police force. Because every film is about the ordinary honest cop or the ordinary honest soldier trying to do the right thing and some corrupt political weak-kneed hack messing around at the top. And those movies do a great job, by the way, of satirizing, the WWE movies and a lot of them. Brilliant job of satirizing culturally the professional managerial class for their weak-kneed nature, for their lack of a backbone. They're not the people you would ever get into a cockpit with. They're not the people you would ever, get if you had to go to war with. They're the very bottom of the list, the very last of the line. And yet they're the ones governing us. And that's what this is. And you see it in these judges making insane and inane gag orders. Now, credit to Trump. I mean, the beauty of Trump. Well,
he doesn't give an F. Is basically
exactly. You cannot bully him. That's what when I went to the first Trump rally in Nevada, Las Vegas, early 2016. I realized how everybody had got everything wrong in the media. At the time, I was just studying whether to bet on Trump. I wasn't studying whether to vote for him. I hadn't voted since the primaries of '96. Because politics was Tweedledum, Tweedledummer, Tweedledummist. I'll skip this. But made a lot of money betting on it. That I was fine with. But I went there and I realized Trump isn't the bully. Trump is the guy who punches the bully in the mouth. That's what the Trump is the guy that fights back against the bully. And the media kept calling Trump the bully. He's not the bully. You media, you're the bully. And his audience were made of people that had been bullied their whole lives. They weren't people that were bullies. These were you could see how nice and kind they were to individuals in the line and in public discussion. These are people that were tired of getting spit on and beat up. And that's what they love about Trump. And what I love about this aspect of Trump is exposing how corrupt. I mean, I've been complaining about the corruption of our political system and our legal system for a quarter century. And I've stayed in the practice of law because sometimes you can win against the odds. And you might as well fight. The only way you're guaranteed to lose is if you quit. And I've just never found that to be an appropriate approach. And so what they don't realize is how bad they look to the world.